In tonight's Political Insider, Donald Trump, the undisputed leader in the GOP primary. Today, Quinnipiac University released its latest national poll. Here's how the Republican candidates line up. Trump with 27%, Senator Marco Rubio with 17%, Dr. Ben Carson and Senator Ted Cruz with 16% each, and 5% for Jeb Bush. Joining me with the latest is Ben Kamisar, reporter for The Hill. Ben, last month, Trump and Carson were in a virtual dead heat. What's happened? Yeah, so it's been a tough month for Ben Carson, mainly around his foreign policy expertise, or I guess lack, some of the troubles he's been having around foreign policy. Obviously, with the Paris terrorist attacks bringing national security into the limelight and into one of the major issues of the campaign, this is an issue that Ben Carson himself even admits that he still faces a learning curve on. So while other candidates have tried to make their appeal with either strong rhetoric or pointing to their national security chops on their resume, Ben Carson hasn't been able to do either because he's never held political office and previously served as a neurosurgeon. So all of that on top of some really critical headlines that come out, specifically the New York Times story from a couple weeks ago that talked up to some of his advisors that really roundly criticized his foreign policy grasp. All of that combined has been a tough month for Carson. That said, it's still really early and he's still in that second wave of Republican candidates. And the rest of the GOP field is going after Donald Trump. Here's a new ad from Ohio Governor John Kasich.
Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. Oh, I don't remember.
He appeared to mock a reporter with a disability.
He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said.
That reporter he is talking about is Serge Kovaleski, who now works for the New York Times. As you can see right there, he suffers from a chronic condition that impairs movement of his arm.
Trump says he wasn't mocking the reporter because he didn't know what the reporter looked like. But in truth, they have known each other personally for years.
He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said.
Pretty dramatic stuff. Kasich isn't the only person taking Trump to task. Today in the Washington Post, columnist Dana Milbank called Trump a racist. Are these attacks justified?
Well, so, the summer of Trump has turned into the fall of Trump, right. And it looks like it's going to turn into the winter of Trump, too. We don't see him slowing down at all. So now, for these candidates that have been, marginalized and sort of left out of the conversation, it's becoming, sink or swim time for them, and they're really jumping in with these attacks. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of criticism over those comments and other comments he said. So there's certainly ammo, and as we're getting further along in this process, people are starting to dig in and realize that if they don't do something drastic and they don't directly attack him, they might not be able to stick around much longer.
Yep, you're right. They're thinking now is the time, now or never. The Quinnipiac poll also shows Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton gaining ground on the Republican field. She leads all of the top four candidates, but Senator Bernie Sanders does just as well or better. What should we make of these numbers, Ben?
Well, so those numbers are huge for Bernie Sanders. A lot of the critiques that he's faced, specifically from Democrats, has been that he's not electable. People have pointed to his identification as a Democratic socialist as part of that issue, but these numbers start to push back against that, and it's certainly ammo for the Sanders campaign that I'm sure they're very happy to have ahead of the tough nomination fight. That said, as far as how he or she matches up with the field, we're so far away from having to actually see how the primary goes, let alone who they're going to be facing off against. So it's tough to see much past that.
Meanwhile, the State Department has released another huge batch of Clinton emails, but they barely registered on the campaign trail. What do those 7,800 documents cover? Does anyone care?
Well, people care, and especially Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's team cares because, the emails that we've seen out now, this new one didn't exactly, become on the front page of the news like some of the other ones have. But that said, the ongoing existence of this email probe really adds a little bit of a question mark to the campaign. Obviously, as long as there isn't a smoking gun or some type of revelation, it'll probably stay in the back burner. But that said, we're only a couple months from the primaries, so the longer we go, if this continues to loom, it has in the back of the Clintons' mind, oh wow, if something is breaking, then we might not have enough time to deal with it.
Right, it's a drip, drip, drip. Before we go, Ben, let's talk about climate change. President Obama just returned from a global climate conference in Paris. He continues to make the environment central to his presidential legacy. Regarding climate change, where do the presidential hopefuls rank here, and who stands out?
Well, so the Republican side has been resoundingly negative on the president's climate change tack. A lot of them have, especially in light of the ISIS threat, have started to question whether he's privileging climate change over national security, making that argument. Others have sort of argued whether he's too short, I guess, looking too far ahead, trying to work against climate change and sacrificing the economic stability of small businesses at home. That's been completely the opposite on the Democratic side, where the candidates have been resoundingly favorable to his policies, with even Bernie Sanders mentioned at the last debate that he believes that climate change is one of the biggest national security threats the country's facing. So it's a pretty stark divide between the two candidates.
It's going to be quite a horse race going in 2016. We'll stay on top of it here. Ben Kamisar, reporter for The Hill. Thanks, Ben.
Good to be here.